The defending Stanley Cup champion Vegas Golden Knights will open the season at home on Tuesday, October 10th, when VGK will raise its championship banner against Seattle. We will talk about the scheduling highlights right here today on Locked On Golden Knights.
Your Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi, everyone. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. You can find us, of course, on the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. Please subscribe there. And, of course, on Twitter, at Tony Dasco, at TD Chris G, at Locked On VGK. And we are brought to you today by FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting Major League Baseball on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. So, Chris, we saw this week VGK releasing the schedule on Tuesday. The NHL draft is also coming up, and we'll talk about that later on in the program. But first, the schedule and what stands out to you.
Of course, the opening ceremony, the opening night's going to be fun against the Kraken. I think the Blackhawks, right? The Blackhawks are going to be here somewhat early. Of course, the Connor Bedard tour, as I'm saying. He has a residency in Chicago, and he'll be hitting the road October through April next year, possibly into May. I doubt June, though. We'll see if the Blackhawks can figure something out. Me and you were going up and back, Tony. I checked like 4 different times. Edmonton, only 3 games. Am I correct in that?
That's true. That's correct, yeah.
What am I, and forgive me, I'm sure someone's going to add us on YouTube and Twitter for this, but I always thought it was 4 divisional games, 3 against your conference, 2 against the other conference, but maybe the math doesn't work out since Seattle came into the league.
Seattle came in, I think, yeah. And so the teams that they're going to be playing 4 times will be Anaheim, Calgary, Seattle, San Jose, and Vancouver. Which had a combined record of 167, 183, and 60 a season ago. I know that off the top of my head.
Absolutely, you do.
Yeah. And so, but they're not going to play Edmonton. They play the Kings only 3 times, right down the street, just 3 times.
Yeah, that's unfair.
Don't get me started.
They have to travel farther, Tony. Relax. They have to travel farther. Kings are going to be fine. We're going to hit them a little more in the third segment, but they just acquired Pierre-Luc Dubois. So that's going to be an interesting kind of a retool going on. They sent some pieces out, but they got the best player in the deal. We'll see what happens with the Kings. Always fun when the Sharks come. We got them early on. Let me see in my notes game. Right here. Yeah, no, right? Yeah, we have them early. I think the first home game is November the 10th, though. And obviously things get a little bit goofy, of course, whenever they come to town.
Okay, so I counted. Well, my math was way off. While I was good at the total tabulation of all their records combined for those teams that I just mentioned, I was way off in the back-to-back area. And a back-to-back doesn't mean, folks, that you play one night, you have a night off, and then the following night you play again. That's not a back-to-back. It's 2 consecutive nights or days. 11 back-to-backs, I guess, was the final verdict for VGK. Check this out.
You said 12. That's pretty good, actually. You said 12.
I said
before
12.
It started.
The New Jersey Devils have the most with 16 back-to-backs. Now, they don't have to travel as far, but nonetheless, why would they get jobbed like that? And the Seattle Kraken have the fewest at just 7. But I was looking at some of those back-to-backs for VGK. It won't be that easy. Philly and Pittsburgh. You've got New Jersey and the Islanders. You've got the Rangers to Detroit. There's some pretty difficult games there for the VGK. But, of course, they do have that one down the street where they just go to L.A. to play the Kings. Well, Anaheim's on the front end this time, and then the Kings are second. But 11 back-to-backs for VGK. Does the schedule seem manageable? I think they could get out to a really good start, the Golden Knights. I mean, if they beat Pete DeBoer, I think they could be something like 5-0 just out of the chute.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of getting a quick glance here: Seattle, San Jose, Anaheim, Dallas, home against Dallas, key, and then
Yeah,
of course we got the new look Winnipeg Jets, Blackhawks, Flyers, Blackhawks again.
6, 7, 8. Okay,
Yeah,
maybe
I
I was
mean,
wrong.
Los Angeles,
Miscalculation.
Montreal. So one, two,
Pretty
three,
easy.
four, five,
Pretty
six,
easy.
7, 8, 9, 10 games. I mean, 7 and
7,
3,
6,
6, 4,
6,
6,
4,
6,
8.
3 and 1, whatever.
Maybe 8.
Like
Maybe 8.
it definitely could be. I'm trying to stay somewhat grounded in all this, definitely, but they should have a fair start. Let's be reasonable. Very short off season, Stanley Cup hangover. There's also a reasonable path for 4 and 6.
No, that won't happen. And I'm the pessimist of the group. This will be the season in which we have the first stadium game, the outdoor game on New Year's Day. They didn't get a break so much with the holidays. So I guess that the NHL and Mr. Gary Bettman, they were listening to me. And then,
Definitely.
of course, we talked about Formula One on yesterday's show, and we knew that they would not be in town because there's a basketball tournament there at T-Mobile. And then they won't be at home for the Super Bowl. They'll be home the day following the Super Bowl game. But I know that the arena is being booked with some events there. So those are some key milestone dates there. For VGK, they have a 5-game homestand in January, but they also have 2 5-game road trips. And so those are pretty long and lengthy.
Yeah, the first one, Washington, Montreal, Philly, Pittsburgh, and Dallas. That's going to be a really good measuring point, right? That first long road trip of the season really gives you a taste of how things might look for the rest of the season, at least, for the first half or so. Same breath, it's also a great chance for the team to bond, although maybe Bond should be replaced by Jack Eichel getting drunk every night and preparing to party for another Stanley Cup. It's his ritual. It's his workout routine, right? He drinks on the road and drinks and drinks and drinks so he can be ready to party when he gets the Stanley Cup. I mean, listen, these are March Stowe's words, not mine. I'm not making this up. This is
But
from
what about that? What about that tattoo that he got on his thigh? The Stanley Cup tattoo. Did you see that?
I
Pretty
did
interesting.
see that. I mean, yeah, I guess
Well, he doesn't have to go out and find a real job anytime soon, so he could put tats all over his
I
body
mean,
and
to
his
be
face.
fair, there's not a lot of jobs besides a Chippendale where you're going to get that much of your thigh showing at your everyday workplace. So,
How would you know this?
hey, bro, hey, got to pay the bills, man. COVID was tough.
Okay, so how soon after we're going to talk about the draft? How soon following the draft will we see development camp? I was wondering about that today.
Days. I feel like the window is less than like 7 to 10 days away. If memory serves me right from last year. I mean, these guys, I literally remember me and my kid just went there and watched some of the development camp last year. And like, I was just thinking to myself, it's literally been a week since these guys were drafted and boom, here they are in Vegas already, getting a slice of what it's like to be, working out with an NHL club and kind of going through that. So I would guesstimate maybe just after July 4th, maybe like the 7th or something like that is maybe when this will get going. I'm shooting at the hip. I'm guessing we haven't heard dates yet, but I would assume a couple days after the 4th of July, that thing will get going. And we'll get to see Ryan Craig probably leading most of the on ice stuff because the Silver Knights coach is usually the Silver Knights coach and our Ghost Pirates coach. They're usually the ones who kind of take the reins for all that, while Cassidy, McCrimmon, and everyone, they kind of sit up in the corner of the bleachers and just kind of watch and take it all in.
Okay. And someone asked, when do tickets go on sale now that the schedule is announced? Do you have any idea?
No, not till closer to the season. In the press release, there in Vegas's words, there's a handful of season tickets available starting at $55 a game. And that's going to go up in the not too distant future, if I read that right. And when I say handful, it's probably a very small handful of tickets at $55 a pop. And honestly, that seems low for a Stanley Cup, winning team. If you can jump on right now, I mean, they're probably going to get you for a long-term contract or a 1-year contract. They won't give you that sweetheart of a deal for 3 years. You're either going to get in and out in 1 year so they can raise the price, or they're going to rope you in for 10 years and say, okay, we'll get you on the backside.
That's crazy. VGK's got to work on New Year's Day. I didn't check Valentine's Day, though. I don't know if VGK is going to be home or away?
National holiday. They're going to be home. Monday,
Course.
February 12th, Minnesota.
Sure.
Saturday,
Yeah.
February 17th.
Phew.
Wow. So, okay. So month to November of the following season, guys. Watch out. We might have some players on a maternity leave.
Yeah, for sure. Coming up next, the NHL draft begins today on Wednesday. VGK with 5 draft picks. We'll discuss who their top pick could be in the first round with that 32nd pick.
Yes.
We'll return with more right after this on Locked On Golden Knights. Take your first swing at betting Major League Baseball on FanDuel, and you could get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. You bet just $20 and you could land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 that you could spend betting everything from the money line to over-unders to who you think is going to hit that first home run. It's all on the app that's safe, it's secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on Major League Baseball than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. You get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. Welcome back to Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Thought I was doing another Locked On show. Don't know where I'm at today. Of course, you could find us on the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights, and of course, wherever you get your podcast, please check it out. It's a big day. It is draft day. It's in Nashville, and next year we will have, of course, the NHL draft, according to reports right here in our very city. So
that'll be fun.
5 draft picks for VGK. They have the 32nd pick in the first round. They've got 2 third-rounders, number 77 and 96. They have 1 6th-rounder, that's 192, and a 7th-rounder at 224. And at number 32, I
love it.
I could speak it into existence, man. If we can get Oliver Bonk here, he's already playing for a team wherever he's at called the Knights. I mean, it would be the perfect transition. Then, of course, his dad was Radek Bonk, who everyone remembers here in Las Vegas when he played for the Las Vegas Thunder. How could they do this? Okay. Of course, I dreamt this up as well. So St. Louis has 3 picks, right? And St. Louis is ready to deal. I think they're ready to deal, Chris. They have number 10. I don't think they'll part with that. But number 25, and they could either go with the 25th pick or the 29th pick. I'm seeing in a lot of these mock drafts, and they could try to get Oliver Bonk themselves, but maybe VGK could put together some sort of a package deal, do you think, to try to move up and get Oliver Bonk? Because that's who I'd like to see, two-way defenseman. And again, I like that historical viewpoint as well.
The historical viewpoint is certainly fun. The simulation I'm looking at has them at 33 right now. So really at that point, it all just kind of depends on what scout is going to make the most noise to their general manager. I mean, that's really what happens when you get out of, the first few picks are going to write themselves. A good chunk of the first round probably writes itself, although we did have a surprise last year with Shane Wright falling, Slafosky going 1, right thing at the end of the day, obviously, but it was certainly a surprise. And of course, Shane Wright gave that awesome stare down to the Canadiens draft table, which I thought was just so much fun. Maybe let's get a stare down this year. Maybe we'll get a stare down from somebody this year. But could Bonk be there? Yes. Could it be Riley Heidt? Could it be Daniel Butte? Could it be Ethan Gauthier? Could it be Bradley Nadeau? I'm literally reading off a sheet. I haven't done any research besides my reading, and I don't have a napkin to read this from right now, folks. But at this stage here, it's kind of, I don't know. The interesting twist that I do like, though, Tony, is the Golden Knights get to go for Mr. Irrelevance. I think we talked about this a little bit, but we'll hit this right now. Patrick Hornquist.
That would be the final pick.
That'd be the final pick, yeah.
So they have the last pick.
They have the very last pick.
Okay.
And I actually wrote about this the other day, so now I got my notes already set out for me here. If I can just find this. Really, here we go, right here. Bam, here we go.
Are you going to quote yourself?
I am quoting myself. Patrick Hornquist. There we go. Patrick Hornquist, current Florida Panther, 2 Stanley Cups, nearing 1,000 games played. So that's the most relevant, Mr. Irrelevant that there is. There's been 11 players that have actually stepped onto the NHL ice from the irrelevant spot. So I really hope the Golden Knights can make a splash somewhere in there. Another prospect that I like, this was my pick for Locked On, our mock draft that we did. I scrolled down. He's like ranked in the 70s or something like that. I just saw, so I totally foobarred that one. But Andrew Gibson, big body defenseman, can skate, good two-way defenseman. Zach Whitecloud is kind of the comparable that I draw, so we'll see if they can pick him up maybe with right around that Sabres pick that we have. That'd be the spot actually to possibly nab up Andrew Gibson.
Okay, so yes, what position do you feel VGK would be looking for?
Defense.
And I just saw, I'm guessing defense as well. I just saw the Kelly McCrimmon interview that he had done on their Twitter handle, and McCrimmon was just saying, yeah, we've had no fewer than 6 draft picks in any draft. Okay, great. But what have you done with those? And he said, yeah, of course, they've used it as capital and assets and what have you, so they could obviously make some deals. And I don't know. I mean, VGK, do you think they'll be somewhat aggressive here in this draft, or are they kind of content to where they're at? Or,
I mean, the only way they would do anything if they're going to do something within the draft is a package deal to get like a higher draft pick, maybe in the 2024 draft or something like that. As far as commerce goes for the Golden Knights, they're sitting on, once the Aiden Hill news breaks, which kind of odd that it hasn't broken yet is on an official level. Once that breaks, the Golden Knights are going to have, call it $3 million and change to work with. Dorofeev, Howden, Pahal need their RFA qualifying deals, and those will get worked out with these. I don't see him doing anything with Phil Kessel. Jonathan Quick, I would not be surprised if they tried to make a pitch at the league minimum, because he did fit in so well here and could be a big help, when there's injuries and stuff like that. So there's a very little, unless the Vegas Golden Knights are going to trade away somebody to acquire a higher draft pick, I don't see them doing anything aggressive in this draft besides just filling out some positions. And you look at our defensemen, Pietrangelo, McNabb, Martinez, those are not the youngest of fellows right there. And obviously they're, only going to be aging. So the people you draft now could be their replacements, 3, 4, 5 years down the road from now, maybe even sooner for a guy like Alec Martinez, who's going to be coming into his final year of his contract.
Okay, NFL analogy. The last player, Mr. Irrelevant, to make it big, Brock Purdy. Purdy was a Mr. Irrelevant.
I had no idea. Idea. That's pretty cool.
2 years ago now. And so some of the players that I had going through some of these mock drafts, Riley Haight, you mentioned him, the center from Prince George Cougars. He tied Connor Bedard with 72 assists in the WHL and 97 points. So if they go for a centerman, that could be the call. I want Oscar Fisker Molgaard from Denmark, a setter, just so that I'd like to hear them have to call his name and play-by-play.
He's too small.
Yeah,
I think he's smaller than Marchie.
Yeah,
maybe
he's
taller,
about
but he
Marchie's
weighs
size.
less.
But what about Daniel Butt, the left winger from Russia?
Sounds
6'5", 203. 6'5", 203. Plays for the Kelowna Rockets, and I saw some comparisons to Alex Tuck there.
I actually did look at him when I was doing our mock draft, and I was scrolling through pretty fast. I was giving as much effort then as I am right now, to be completely honest, in this segment. But I scrolled through and I saw the size. I'm like, okay, we're going to click and we're going to learn a little something about this dude here. And yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of people like that in this league. I can't recall Tuck's size. I feel like Tuck is in 6'5", though. I think he's much closer to the 6'1", 6'2" range, if I'm guessing off the top of my head. Yeah.
Tuck's awfully tall.
Okay, well, I don't know. Okay, one of us will look it up when the other one's yapping for a second.
Yeah, but yeah, just keep yapping.
Yeah, just seeing that size, there's just not, like, that's a defenseman size right there, right? That's a defenseman. That's the type of player who, like a Dustin Byfuglien type size. And if he can skate like a Dustin Byfuglien and hit like a Dustin Byfuglien, then, this dude can certainly
6'4".
Okay, good. I talked long enough for you to get the height. Good, perfect.
Yeah, I knew he was taller. I've actually stood next to him.
So have
He's
I. I've met him
tall.
a bunch of times. I honestly didn't register him as 6'4", but all the times I met him, I think he was sitting down or I was drinking with him. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
Okay. Coming up next, there's plenty of news and movement going on in the Pacific Division.
Feel
We'll
much better
bring you
about
up to
that segment.
speed. Yeah, and we could we could talk about some of their draft picks and give you some of the guys that we think they're going to draft. Just kidding. Well, we return right here on Lockdown Golden Knights. We are back on Lockdown Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. Of course, you could find us on YouTube at Lockdown Golden Knights. And of course, please subscribe there. And on Twitter at Tony Dasco. Oh, I got roasted with all of my back-to-back talk and hashtag
The mileage I was looking for. Someone had posted like the miles traveled though. Vegas was
number
was
3,
5th and 3rd. Okay, yeah. So I mean that's something. You got to acknowledge that.
Oh no, I do. I acknowledge greatness. Someone said I should be burned at the cross. So I mean, I'm getting some really nice.
So did someone just compare you to Jesus Christ?
Are
Are you gonna walk on? So are you gonna walk on water when your Rangers win the cup? I mean, what are we talking about here, guys?
I don't know, man, but it is surely a lot of fun.
Oh, it feels like segment 3.
TD Chris TD Chris G, of course, and at Lockdown VGK. And okay, so nighttime. She said, if only you lived in Toronto, you would have 3 million followers, but burned at the cross several years ago. WTF? That's our segment, of course, that comes up on Friday.
Think all the money you could make doing this if you lived in Toronto. It's like David Staples from Edmonton taking my my article, just completely roasting Jay Woodcroft. He took my article so he didn't have to do it. He's like, hey, check out what they're saying about this guy in Vegas, when he's probably the one that really wanted to say it. He just didn't want to put his name out there. So it's all good.
So,
I'll love Dave Staples.
So most travel last season, Edmonton, Florida, then VGK. But most of those trips, I had to point out for Matty Owens, most of those trips were for Bruce Cassidy to go get some tanning in South Florida. So, okay, Pacific Division, a lot of movement. Calgary, they unload Tyler Toffoli. The Ducks, it appears, will be picking second, and Adam Fantilli, the centerman from the University of Michigan, he'll be their pick. But when looking at the Ducks too, let's just talk about these teams for a moment. So they get number 2, but then they have the Ducks have 3 second-round picks, and they could really get an infusion of a lot of really good young talent.
The San Diego Gulls are going to be that's their San Diego, right? That's their affiliate.
Yeah, San Diego's
going to be a pretty good team in the AHL for a couple of seasons. That's what I'm hearing right there. The Ducks are building right now. I did write about that not too long ago in Vegas Hockey Now. Zegras, Drysdale, McTavish. That right there is a fantastic core to build around. Now you're going to put Fantilli into the mix, and then you're going to add a bunch of complementary talent this season. 3-4 years down the road, the Ducks are going to be a problem in the Pacific, probably right around the time the Golden Knights might go into, some type of a rebuild. So the Ducks are positioning themselves very, very well, if not sooner. And they still got about $74 million in cap space available.
Yeah, no, and they were planning to bolster things this season, so that could be a team on the radar. Calgary's just imploding, it appears.
It's so bad. I've been writing about that a while. They literally have, I think, 5 or 6 different players who are openly saying, hey, I want outs. Yeah. I want out right now. And Toffoli, that could
be a fun franchise too, right?
It's unfortunate because at first you could argue, okay, this was all Daryl Sutter, right? They didn't want to play with Daryl Sutter, whatever. But now this is not a Daryl Sutter problem. He was part of the problem, sure. And I'm not knocking Daryl Sutter. He just certainly wasn't maybe the coach for the time. I'm looking up the Flames cap friendly. I was just checking this out the other day. So they're in a complete implosion spot right now. Now that Toffoli is gone, Mikhail Backlund, Elias Lindholm, they both pretty much want out right now. They're UFAs in 24, 25. So it's at the point now where you're going to make a trade now, or you're going to be stuck with them. Noah Hanifin, Christopher Tanev. Chris Tanev, a lot of teams would sign him in a heartbeat. Nikita Zadorov and Denise Gilbert. These are all UFAs expiring next year. Something I really love about the Golden Knights here, just kind of going a little bit off the radar, the Golden Knights are set up to have their contracts expire in waves. Oh, where did it go here? Where did it go? Basically, what I mean when I say that is you have a couple contracts expiring next season and then a couple expiring after that. It's not like the Flames where every single player, all their big players are up in one fall swoop, and they all know this. They all know that the implosion is happening right now. So they're picking up the phone slapshot style, trade me right effing now, and slamming the phone on the GM, and it's starting to happen.
When you talk about the Pacific Division, the LA Kings making moves as they acquire Pierre-Luc Dubois, 8 times $8.5 million. It was a sign and trade deal. Did the Kings give up too much? That's the big question. Alex Iafallo, Rasmus Kapari, and who was it? Gabe
Velarde.
Gabe Velarde. Well, they put Gabriel, and they kind of threw me off there.
It throws me off in Puckpedia when I have to cite this too, so don't worry, you're not alone in that. Talking about Pierre-Luc Dubois first, then we'll talk about the trade. So just looking at some of his recent stats, 63, 60 points, 20 points. So he's really kind of come on as of late. And he got an extension, forgive me, is it around the 8.5? That's what I said. 8.5 AAV range.
8 times 8.5. That's what I said earlier.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot. Yeah. That's a lot of dinero and a lot of American money too. But that's just now. Rewind for a second, going up and back with Dan from Vegas Hockey Now, and a fantasy football. We're talking football connections here. When you make trades in fantasy football or the NHL or any sports organization, give me the best player in the trade. Give me the best singular player in the trade, and then we can evaluate which side of the trade comes out on the better side. So does it feel kind of like a video game type trade where the Kings gave up, a bunch of, not flub, it's certainly much better than that, but they gave up a lot of players to equal out, whatever leveler needs to come into play. And they gave up a lot, but they also gave up a lot that they can replace, whereas they are viewing Pierre-Luc Dubois as a top level superstar, at least by what his contract is going to be. I mean, obviously the Kings had a say in how much that extension was going to be worth. And there's still about $4.5 million in cap space for the LA Kings, but they only have 4 defensemen under contract right now. One of their older defensemen is currently going to be a UFA. I doubt anything happens there. So they're going to have to spend some money to retool a little bit. They're up against the cap, even though there's $4.5 million left. They have to add probably 2 or 3 defensemen off of that and hope, the pieces all kind of fall into place.
We've got the Kraken. They're looking for a defenseman. Vancouver at number 11, looking for a defenseman. But the Sharks, okay, they're going to be picking up high. They've got the 4th pick, and it looks as though it's William Smith, center, played on the USA under-18 team. So they think that they have someone there who can help them out perhaps immediately. And then they made that trade, which is kind of perplexing. They picked up Mackenzie Blackwood, and his record last season, 10-6-2, and his goals against was 3.20. And that was a guy that was hit and miss every time that I saw him play for the Devils. I think they gave up like a 4th round draft pick or something.
Do they still have James Reimer now? Are they really coming into the next season with Reimer and Mackenzie Blackwood?
I think so. Yeah, of course. I think Reimer's still there. Yeah.
Is there a Connor Bedard coming in the next draft that we're not aware of right now? Because that's what it feels like is happening. Kraken, I guess we can say that too. But the Sharks, they're just weird right now. I know they're in this rebuild, but I don't understand the path.
How long is this rebuild going to take? I mean, and Carlson's going to be gone. Eric Carlson, of course.
And that needs to happen.
It needs to happen on draft day, right?
It definitely could. I mean, Hurricanes, Leafs, Kraken, Detroit. These are all the teams that are being mentioned right now. I mean, I can loosely throw Chicago into that mix just based on the availability of cap space right now and how they might set the wheels in motion to, hey, 2 years from now, Bedard's going to get us there. So maybe, like the Taylor Hall, situation. That's why I kind of wonder if Chicago thinks their window is going to be a little bit sooner. Otherwise, why are you even acquiring Taylor Hall? But Eric Carlson, definitely that domino needs to fall so the Sharks can continue on whatever this rebuild path is. I still don't understand it. It's not like Blackhawks, you knew they were sucking for Bedard, right? What's kind of happening in Calgary. They're selling and starting fresh, but the Sharks, like, it took them so long to deal Timo Meier. They still have like Tomas Hertl there, and they have James Reimer and now Mackenzie Blackwood. I don't know.
Of course, they're not the smartest organization because they probably would make a deal within the division with the Kraken, and that would be a big piece there for Seattle.
It definitely would, because Seattle, comparing to the path that the Golden Knights are on, I think it was a Seattle GM, is either the GM or the coach in a random podcast the other day I was listening to, and they acknowledged we don't have a number one center and defenseman. That might change sometime soon. Maybe they're in the organization now, but at this moment we don't have that. And going back to Kelly McCrimmon, of course, he placed a huge level of importance and emphasis in acquiring a number one center and defenseman. I mean, it's a big part of the
Bill
recipe.
Foley said, of course, a number one forward.
Number one forward, yeah.
But he thinks that William Karlsson is a forward.
He thinks he's number one too. 3 Stanley Cups, kid. Go get him, Carly. But yeah, you do need that number one center and defenseman. Is Karlsson a number one defenseman? I mean, on salary, he is, I guess. And what's he, minus 40 or something like that with 101 points? Okay. I mean, it was awesome when Burns and Karlsson were on the ice together in San Jose, because you knew there were going to be some scoring chances for the team they were playing against, obviously. So we'll see what happens. Are the Sharks the smartest team in the Pacific? No, they're not. They're not in the top 7, in my opinion. They're right around the 8th spot. I think they got a comfortable grasp on the 8th spot as far as being the smartest team in the division.
Before we get out of here, the one question I've got to ask you, is this an important draft for VGK, or does it not matter at this point?
No, all drafts are important. So I wish I had it in front of me, but you look at what Cody Glass, Nick Suzuki, Eric Brandstrom, and players like that came to. It came to Mark Stone. It came to Max Pacioretty. I may be talking about him later in this week. It came to the opportunity to get, someone like Jack Eichel, because obviously, you look at Alex Tuck, where he was drafted, and Peyton Krebs and stuff like that. So Vegas is very good at taking these pieces, these draft picks, and building up their value maybe to the other general managers, because they've, listen, Vegas has had their share of flubs too in some deals, but they've done a pretty good job at what this draft capital has become for the Vegas Golden Knights. And listen, we don't need to split hairs about what the number one pick in the 2017 draft became, or the third pick, Peyton Krebs, I think, but what our third round draft pick in 2019 draft became, because the Golden Knights just won a Stanley Cup. Everything that they have done with these draft picks, with this draft capital, it all worked out. The team obviously is on the top of the mountain right now, and they're poised with their core to be competitive for a Stanley Cup all the way possibly to the 2025-2026 season. I'm not saying they're going to win 3 more cups in a row. It'd be fun, but there is a realistic chance that this core, which is comparable to the Chicago Blackhawks, Duncan Keith, Brent Seabrook, Jonathan Taves, Patrick Kane, Marian Hossa. I mean, we have Jack Eichel, we have Mark Stone, we have Pietrangelo. That's, if you're going to compare core to core right there, that's a pretty good start when you look at what the Blackhawks had, and they got 3 Stanley Cups in 5 years. The Golden Knights have every opportunity to get 1 more Stanley Cup, and part of that is certainly with how McCrimmon is utilizing our drafts and our draft capital to get talent that's helping us now.
I know McCrimmon had said that, hey, we're lucky enough to get a first-round draft pick, and if we're picking 32nd, that means that we won the Stanley Cup. So they're very happy and lucky that they at least get a first rounder, and they're in the game, right? And then they don't pick again until round number 3. And so it should be an interesting draft. And coming up on our next show, we'll be highlighting again and recapping the draft and that number 32 pick for everyone out there, and see if this player can fit in or how they'll fit in, or who knows, maybe VGK will make some sort of a deal.
No, that wasn't the timer. That was my excitement I was conveying. You got plenty of time.
Oh, no, I'm going to peace out, though, because I thought you were telling me to wrap it up.
No, I'm good. That was me saying, okay, draft. I'm excited. Woo!
More exciting, the draft or Dr. Frank Saravelli eating his barbecue on the set. They got to relive this. From
What
a man,
was
Chris
it?
Golick.
I won't say it's probably inappropriate, but I'll
It's
tell you
probably
afterwards.
inappropriate.
It's
All
probably
right, we'll keep
inappropriate.
that on the DL or tweet it out because there's a lot of inappropriateness there.
Now you're
From a
talking.
man, Chris Golick, I'm Tony Cardasco from Las Vegas. We thank you all for tuning in, especially our everydayers. Please go subscribe to the YouTube channel. A lot going on there. Locked On Golden Knights. We'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Golden Knights.